Okay, in today's video we're going to talk about how to finish off a garage so that your garage doors will actually be able to sit down onto your concrete and then remove the piece of wall here that is a 6-inch wall. If we look at a section view, you can see that we have our garage door seating itself onto the concrete, yet the concrete does not apron out into the threshold for the garage. So we're going to have to remove this 6-inch cinder block where the garage door is located and be able to then create an area for the concrete apron. Alright, to do this, I'm going to go ahead to my top of foundation view. And first I'm going to go to my first floor, and I want to make sure that my garage doors are spaced equally and evenly where I want them to be located in my garage. This is critical in that once I cut out that 6-inch block running around underneath my garage door, if I have to move my garage door, it becomes more of a larger editing issue. So first make sure the garage doors are located where you want. Then I'm going to head to my top of foundation view, and I'm going to now start to use what's called, if I select my wall, I can come over to my edit tools. Whoops, let me get my wall here. My edit tools pop up, and this is my modify toolbar where I'm going to be working. And I'm going to come up here to the split element, because all I want to do is be able to literally split the wall or cut the wall. So when I select the split element tool, my cursor turns into what looks like a little knife, similar to like a little X-Acto knife. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the wall, and I want to actually select the area on the wall right where it's the outside of the jam material. So the outside of the jam material, and I go ahead and click. Once I click, I can now see a line showed up. This blue line is an additional blue line. That's where I've just cut this wall. So I'm going to come down to the other side of that jam material on that wall, click again, and now you can see now I've cut that wall. And I'll keep going down through, and I'll cut this wall, and then I'll come down to this one, and I'll go ahead and cut this wall. So I'm now finished cutting, and I can right click and hit cancel or hit escape. Either one would work to do that. And then I want to go back to my 3D view, and I should be able to mouse over top of that 6-inch cinder block layer and see that I now have individual pieces in this wall. So if I were to go ahead and select that interior piece there of the 6-inch cinder block that I had created a cut for and then hit delete, I can now remove that section of the cinder block. After you go ahead and cut, and then you can select that 6-inch wall and delete it, you should then see a gap underneath of your garage door. If I go in and look at my section view, that garage door should actually be at the same level as the top of the concrete slab, but there should be nothing here for the concrete slab apron. So that's what we're going to work on next. Now, there's a detail that we need to be aware of. And given that this is an insulated concrete slab, what we would not want to do is run the concrete slab out into this area for the apron, because then we're going to have insulation running out to the outside here. So what we need to do is we're going to go ahead and create just a small concrete slab that is separate from the concrete slab and lay that concrete slab underneath of our garage door. Okay, so to set up a solid concrete slab underneath of the garage door to create the apron, I'm going to then go ahead to the top of the foundation. So I'm going to go to the top of the foundation level. I'm going to grab the architecture tab. I'm going to grab my floor tab, and I'm going to need to create a concrete floor that is going to be 6 inches thick. So I'm going to grab my edit type, and my concrete floor with insulation, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate. And I'm going to get rid of concrete floor insulation. I'm going to just call this con floor apron. Whoops. Okay. And that apron is going to be underneath of that concrete or underneath of the garage door. So I do not need this 2 inches of rigid foam insulation. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to change my concrete thickness so it's not 4 inches, but it's 6 inches. Because I need to actually fill that whole cavity in with concrete. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. Once I've done this, I can hit OK again. And then I'm going to go ahead and just create a small concrete floor underneath of where my garage door is located. I'm going to let the floor actually extend out past the garage by approximately 1.5 inches. That 1.5 inches is going to represent and give space for when it's actually framed. That 1.5 inches would be the way that it is framed given the size of lumber. So a piece of lumber would be bolted to the side of the garage, then another piece of lumber would be attached across the face of this garage when this is formed and the concrete is poured. So your apron should extend past the edge of the foundation wall by about 1.5 inches. Once I do this, I'm going to make sure that the level that this is poured to is going to be lower down than the top of the foundation. And I believe it's going to have to be lowered down by 2 inches. So once I do this, I'm going to hit apply, I'm going to hit the green check, and always I say no. Say no. Would you like walls to attach to the bottom? No. For some reason that always seems to create problems and issues. Now I can see now this is the concrete slab that is now underneath of and creates the apron for my garage door. The other thing I'm going to do quickly is run in and change the thickness of the lines here so that I can see a little more detail on my floor system. Then look at the floor, I have a little overlap, so I'm going to go ahead and reassess. I'm going to open up the top of foundation. I'll tile these so that I can actually work with both of these at the same time. I'm going to select the slab. I'm going to go over to my top of foundation, hit edit boundary, and then I can start to see, well, where is that slab actually located? So it looks like the slab is located here, and hit my green check, always say no. Now I can see that my slab, this would all be considered one solid slab, even though I'm building it in 2 different pieces here. When this is actually constructed, the insulation would come up on the inside of the stem wall, the insulation underneath of the slab would come across this point and stop, and then when the concrete's poured, this would all be poured as one continuous pour. But to model this properly in REVIT, this is the most effective way that I've seen to be able to do it. That way, when you look at this in your 3D view, you can actually see, you can turn and then see that the garage door is now seated on that apron. And as I spin my door around, you can see that it's seated on the apron. If I go ahead and spin this thing around to the inside, I can also see that my garage door is sitting on the concrete itself. I have no lip or bump from that 6-inch wall to deal with and run around with.